Welcome to upGrad KnowledgeHut's webinar on ITL version 5. Welcome one and all. I'm Jude Rexon, your host from upGrad KnowledgeHut. And I just want to say thank you for joining us for today's session and what the next evolution of this framework means for IT professionals globally. So for those of you who are joining us for the first time, KnowledgeHut is an accredited training organization with PeopleCert. And we work closely with professionals and enterprise teams across the IT service management space. Today's session is designed to give you a clearer understanding of why ITL 5 was introduced, what's changing from ITL version 4, what the qualification path looks like, and how professionals can approach this transition moving forward. Right? So to help us do that, we have brought together an excellent panel of speakers today. First, Pearl Quan. Pearl holds the ITIL Master designation, the highest level in the entire ITIL framework, something only a very small percentage of professionals globally ever reach. She brings over 20 years of experience across IT service management, strategy, consulting, and training. And one thing I'll say about Pearl, when she explains something, it clicks. Next, we have David Cannon joining us from PeopleCert in the US. David works closely with the qualification architecture itself. So if you've been wondering what ITIL 5 means for your path, your certifications, or your next move, you're hearing it from the right person. And finally, we have very happy to have Vivek Joseph with us, the Vice President of ITIL and the DevOps Institute at PeopleCert. Vivek doesn't really join in on every session, so having him here today really says a lot about how important this moment is for the ITIL community worldwide. So between the three of them, trust me, you're all in very good hands. Expect a clear conversation about one of the biggest updates in IT service management in years. So without further ado, let's jump right in. Pearl, over to you on establishing this world of ITIL.
Oh, thanks, Jude. I'm not sure. I think Frank Nunick has a question. He's raising his hand I'm just noticing in the participant. If you want to give him a little bit of a chat, and then I'll get into uh
Yeah.
talking about it. Yeah, and then we'll go through. So, hello everyone. Thank you, Jude, again. Good morning, afternoon, and evening to everyone from wherever you are joining us. I'm here to talk to you about ITIL and where it's going. We know that today every organization is powered by technology, even if technology isn't what you sell. Whether if you are running a hospital, a logistics company, a retail chain, a school, or a government department, your ability to deliver value depends on the systems, the data, the digital services working reliably. And when they don't, the business stops. This is where ITIL can help. ITIL is the most widely adopted framework for managing technology based services and creating value for stakeholders. ITIL exists because organizations needed a common, repeatable, global, understood way to run technology that runs the business. It's not a technical manual. It's not a developer's handbook. It is a global best practice framework, not only for IT service management, but also digital product and service management and the customer experience. In an organization, all products and services are influenced by technology, either directly or indirectly. Just a few days ago, I was at a major university here in Canada. Yes, I'm a Canadian from the Toronto area. I was helping out in the second year medical students at the university who were taking their final exams. And each student would have 10 minutes in a station to demonstrate their practical skills. These exams are run across 5 sites and they are synced so that all second year medical students that were taking the exams are taking them at the same time. there were three sessions that were run throughout the day. So three groups of students that would come. And and this happened, as I said, throughout the day. And so these were all at each site. The marking of the exams, though, was supported by technology. The examiners in the room were using iPads to mark those medical students. When the iPad does not work, this caused delays across all sites and potential delays for future sessions during the day because we needed to make sure everything was in sync. And we would have nervous students who would be waiting until the issue was resolved. Thankfully, nothing major happened during this week. When technology does not work, the business does stop. Technology is no longer a department, it is that backbone of an entire organization. And when technology becomes the backbone, the way we manage it becomes a strategic differentiator. That's why frameworks like ITIL matter more today than ever. There are many frameworks that organizations use to manage business and the products and services that support the business. ITIL is the one framework that will help organizations manage those digital products, services, and customer experience. It is the shared vocabulary that lets those multinational teams collaborate, scale, and deliver consistently. ITIL is a common language that will keep everyone in line. You may be using other frameworks like Prince2, PMP, DevOps, Agile, Lean, and so forth. But what ITIL can do is help bring it all together. And so, coming from an ITIL V2 background, I've really seen the evolution of ITIL. Since the last update, which happened in 2019, the world was different. AI was experimental. Cloud adoption was accelerating, but not dominant. Remote work was not the norm. Digital services were important, but not the primary way customers interacted with businesses. We know since then the world has changed at a pace we've never seen before. Today, AI is embedded in daily operations, cloud is the default, hybrid work is normal, our customer experience is very important, and the entire industry has been reshaped by our digital expectations. And so, what ITIL version 5 can help is really structurally rethink how organizations deliver value in a world where technology is everywhere and managing those digital products and services and experiences, which has never been so complex in our day. ITIL version 5 is built for a world where every business is a digital business. And so, what I am talking about here is really that shift in scope. It is something that PeopleCert saw coming. The new ITIL is shaped for now and for what comes next in the digital and AI driven era. It will help organizations deliver faster value, work smarter, continuously adapt in an ever changing environment. And with that, I'd love Vivek to speak to that from where he sits globally. So over to you, Vivek.
Thank you, Pearl. Thank you very much. I will very briefly touch upon a couple of things here. What we are seeing across the world is that technology is changing the world at speeds that were previously unimaginable. There have been such great innovations that are happening on a regular basis, and these innovations are disrupting the world on Literally every single day, we see new things coming in on and on at a very, very regular pace. AI is playing a significantly huge role. This is one of the biggest things that is happening. And organizations all over the world are looking at ways in which they can use AI to help their customers. At the same time, organizations have moved away from the traditional model of working. Now they're looking at working with multiple partners, multiple vendors that are distributed around the world, around different geographies, all of them coming together to achieve a single goal to help a customer or an organization. And organizations, when they realize that this is where things are going, they were struggling to find the ways in working with all of these new things together. And like you rightly pointed out, Pearl, our uh, internal teams that were looking at the ecosystem saw this coming and started putting together guidance on what could be used in this new changed world, which is distributed, which is AI disrupted. And we wanted to provide some guidance to organizations on how they can thrive in this kind of an ecosystem. Our team, which they also took in support from people from outside the world. We call it global best practices because people from around the world contribute to ITIL. So it was not just a few people sitting in some parts of the world doing it. It was people from around the world that came in to contribute to the new ITIL, to helping organizations use all the changes that are there to their advantage. More than 5,000 people have already contributed to the new ITIL thus far, and it is increasing. And our teams worked for more than 2 years to come up with updated guidance. This gives you a background and a backdrop of what has happened, how we saw things changing, and we quickly worked together to help organizations. Now, David, who is a part of the authoring team, will talk a little more on that one. Now, what also has happened in the past few years is that there are more than 3 million candidates that are already ITIL certified and an order of magnitude higher candidates that are ITIL aware. All of them needed this guidance, and organizations that are working with them needed support. This is where the new ITIL has started making sense. And lastly, for us, why did we start talking about this now? Technology earlier was just a support function, but technology is now running business, and technology is business, like you mentioned, Pearl. For me, what I see is that there is no other framework that can talk about everything, all the way from a strategy point of view to things that are happening on the shop floor, everything to be covered. There is no other framework other than ITIL that is speaking and providing the end-to-end guidance. This is where ITIL becomes significantly important to talk all the way across the organizations to align things that are happening from a strategy perspective to things that can happen on the shop floor. I stop with my thoughts right now and hand it back to you, Jude, and Pearl to take this conversation further.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Vivek. That was great perspective, especially those points you brought up. Really brought out that, gives you that important vantage point that you need, right? So, David, I hope we can now cover what is new in the ITIL version 5 and also the qualification scheme.
Yes, thank you very much, Jude. ITIL version 5 represents a significant move from what has been happening before in version 3 through ITIL 4, and now where we are in ITIL 4 in ITIL version 5. Let me just summarize some of the key differences. The first key difference is that we recognize in ITIL version 5 that the management of digital technology does not only happen in traditional IT departments. We've done a lot of research and we understand that in many organizations, up to 40% of what was traditionally done by the traditional IT department is now being done somewhere else in the organization. The reason for this is because we have business units acquiring cloud services. They work directly with the cloud service providers, especially software as a service, and they are required to manage those services. Sometimes they do that together with the IT department, but very often they don't. So ITIL version 5 looks for ways to extend what we've learned about managing IT into the management of digital technology throughout the organization. That's the first big difference, is that ITIL version 5 is geared towards the management of digital technology, no matter where it is being used and managed in the organization. So we still have a very strong base of how we manage IT within a traditional IT department, but we've extended that into an understanding of how other groups work with digital technology. One of the key groups that we work with are product teams or development teams that are spread throughout the organization. Some of them work within the context of IT or information systems, and many of them work outside within the business units themselves, developing new ways and new products to reach customers and markets. So this whole idea of us working closely together between the traditional functions of IT, IT operations management, and now also the functions of application development. Now, I want to be very clear. ITIL does not talk about, hey, we want to take over the world of DevOps. We want to take over the world of Agile. These frameworks and approaches are really valuable. They're unique. They're designed for very specific purposes. The important thing about ITIL is not interested in taking over the knowledge and the experience and the guidance that is given by these frameworks. The idea of ITIL is, how do we link to them? Well, why do we want to do that? The most important reason for us needing to work more cohesively across multiple types of teams, development, application, operations, cloud service providers, outsourcing companies, etc. The most important reason for this is because the kind of technology that we're using today is changing rapidly. So it used to be we could afford to work in a very clear waterfall model where something was developed by one team and then it was handed over for testing to another team, and then it was handed over to another team for operation. Today, in the world of AI and many of the digital technologies we use, that work is being done in real time. And the development and operation and testing cycles are being shortened and reduced. And in many cases, they're overlapping. They happen very quickly. So for us to be able to manage these services effectively, we need to be able to integrate across multiple teams, working in multiple different ways. So what ITIL does in version 5, which is different than it's done before, is to look at ways on how to integrate the efforts of multiple types of teams, collaborating to build services and now products. ITIL version 4 or ITIL 4, we talked about products. We mentioned that services and products were both very important in terms of delivering value, co-creating value. But what we did not do was show how those teams should be integrated. In ITIL version 5, we have reincorporated something that was introduced in version 3, which is the life cycle. In version 3, the life cycle was a service life cycle. We focused on strategy, design, transition, operation, and improvement. But what we missed was the integration between the teams that are focused on the management of products. Now, to be very clear, when we talk about service and product, we're not talking about operations and dev. Both dev and operations must collaborate on product design, building, and management. Both dev and ops must collaborate on the design and the management of services. So what ITIL version 5 has done is focused on two very important aspects. One is the product. which are the artifacts, the devices, the systems, the tangible things that we use to be able to provide services. And we focus on the services themselves, the way in which those products are used by consumers, by various stakeholders in the organization. So we now have ITIL clearly focused, not just on service management, but because digital technology has brought these worlds together, we focus on digital product and service management. And as I've said, we've brought the lifecycle back from version 3. We've expanded it so that it includes the activities for both product management and service management in a single cohesive value chain. So that is one of the key differences between ITIL 4 and ITIL version 5, and it is probably the most impactful difference because it enables different teams in the organization to collaborate in more tangible ways than we described in ITIL 4. So that's the one big difference. In the managing professional set of certifications, we have now introduced product, we've now introduced service, and we show how teams that are focused on managing products move through the life cycle and interface and integrate with the activities of service teams. In the service module, we focus on the teams who are responsible for services and how they work through the life cycle and how they interface and collaborate with people and teams working on products. So we've shown the life cycle from two different perspectives. We show how they fit together. But even more than that, we've introduced a third component, which is really important. It's something that we've always thought was important, but we really didn't focus on it as a unique aspect of ITIL, and that is experience. The third key of the managing professional is to make sure that the experience of both products and services is what it should be. Now, I know there's a lot of work being done and a lot of talk about experience right now, and a lot of that work has to do with what is the user experience, for example, when there's an incident, when they call the service desk, or what is the user experience when they're using a service. Those are very important parts of experience, but that alone is not enough. What we need to understand is how do products and services collectively and in a combined manner contribute to the overall experience of all stakeholders in the organization so that they can meet the objectives of the organization. So we're looking at the experience of the service provider. We're looking at the experience of the user. We're looking at the experience of the customer. We're looking at the experience of the governors, the board of directors. And we're looking at how to tie all of that experience together, how to measure that experience to make sure that we're hitting our targets, our objectives at every level, from the level where we are delivering and supporting services all the way through to the level where our organization is operating successfully to meet its strategic objectives. So there are some very clear differences between ITIL 4 and ITIL version 5. I'm not going to go into too much detail because we don't have a lot of time here, but those give us some of the core differences. The other difference that I'd like to really talk about is the qualification scheme itself. Some things stay the same, some things change. The thing that stays the same is the designation. If you're a managing professional today, it is possible for you to maintain that same designation. So managing professional, practice manager, and strategic leader, all of those designations remain the same. The difference is the content that goes underneath them. So if you're an ITIL 4 managing professional, you will have done courses like Create, Deliver, Support, Drive Stakeholder Value, High Velocity IT, and Direct, Plan, and Improve. In ITIL version 5, the modules are different. We focus on product, service, experience, and ITIL transformation. Transformation is one of the new parts of ITIL version 5, which is all about how do you approach large-scale transformation projects. That includes anything from adding a new ITIL practice or a new tool, all the way through changing the entire strategy of a particular business unit. So when you add the ITIL transformation, you are then able to move your designation to an ITIL version 5 managing professional. When you add ITIL transformation to any of the practice groupings, you're able to achieve the ITIL version 5 practice manager. If you add transformation to a strategy course, if you're a strategic leader today, you add the ITIL transformation and you become an ITIL strategic leader. So there are some changes to the content of the certifications, but the designations remain the same. We have those designations that are focused on people who are managing practices, people who are really involved in executing or managing or designing those practices. The managing professional, which is designed for those managers or senior technologists that are responsible for making sure that practices are working across multiple teams, that the practices are working together in the way that they should. And then we have the strategic leader, which is for executives of the organization and their direct reports, as well as senior technologists who are responsible for evaluating how emerging technologies are going to change the way in which the organization works. I want to say one important thing before I hand back, and that is that it's very important when we look at ITIL. We look at the foundation course, and then we look at all the other material. And it's very tempting to look at the foundation course because it contains a lot of high-level information about all of ITIL. It's very tempting to look at the foundation course and say, that's all I have to worry about, and then I'm good with ITIL. I've got my ITIL certificate. That's a little bit like saying that a person went to university, studied Introduction to Engineering 101, and we now take them out of university and they start designing bridges and highways. I would not drive across that bridge and I would not drive on that highway. And it's the same thing with ITIL. If you really want to get the value out of ITIL, if you really want to investigate and apply the guidance in ITIL, it is really important that you go beyond the foundation. Get hold of the practice guides, study them, apply them, use them. So I said that was the last thing. I wasn't entirely accurate. I want to add one more thing, and that is the whole element of AI. Artificial intelligence is everywhere today. You cannot do anything without the question coming up, how is this impacted by AI? How does it use AI? Is it going to be able to feed into my AI solutions? Can I build an agent using this? The questions raised by AI adoption are very similar to questions that have been raised in every major shift that has happened in IT over the last 35 years since ITIL was written. We moved from mainframes to client server. We moved from client server to web-based. We moved from web-based to mobile and cloud. And now we're moving into AI enabled. Every time we did that, there was a major shift in the industry. And ITIL has been consistently addressing how we deal with that major shift. And AI is no difference. The key thing with AI, though, and what makes it unique in this version of ITIL is that AI is used not only as an emerging technology that is used by business units, in other words, we have to support it. It is also a technology that impacts the way in which we manage service and product management. So if you're doing incident management or you're managing a service desk, you're very likely to be using an AI tool that helps you to manage those processes and those functions more effectively. So we've had to talk a lot more about AI than any other technology previously in ITIL. There are 3 places in ITIL that you're going to find out about AI. The first place is in the practice guides. In the practice guides, we learn how AI is used in that practice. So I mentioned incident management. How do we use AI to detect incidents even before they are reported by a user? How do we use AI to learn more about the context of the incident so that we don't have to go through lengthy diagnostic scripts and waste time on the call trying to get information that should already be available. How do we use AI to find out if there is a solution or a workaround that's already in place? That shortens the amount of time that it takes for us to detect and resolve incidents. So we find out, and every practice guide has a section about AI. Now, I will tell you that it's early days. We tend to think that AI has been around forever, and in some cases, like process automation, it has been around for a long time in one form or another. But actually, AI as a mainstream disruptor has not been around for that long. We're still learning. There's still a long way to go. So you can expect to see the information that's available today in the practice guides is likely to be updated on a continuous basis. Right? So you keep up to date by reading the practice guides, by looking and monitoring at how this is going to, how AI is impacting practices. That's the first place you'll find AI. The second place that you'll find AI is in the managing professional publications, the service, the product, and the experience, as well as ITIL transformation. And those publications focus on AI firstly as what do we need to do to manage AI as a technology? How do we manage services that use AI or that are based on AI? For example, how do we manage large-scale deployments of tools like Copilot or Claude or ChatGPT or Gemini, whichever you happen to be using? How do we control the creation, management, and use of agentic AI, for example? Just small things like, we now have tools that enable users to write their own code. And I saw some research which talked about the number of thousands of lines of code that could be generated by an individual user in a year. Well, multiply that by the number of users in your organization. And if you think you had technical debt when it comes to code today, just imagine the technical debt that you're going to have with thousands of lines of code being produced by users every year. It's a management nightmare, the governance nightmare. How do we approach that? How do we get that and make it manageable? How do we make sure that we're not seeing all of our money going into unused code and unused tools, right? So that technical debt issue, that's just one example of the kind of issues that we have to deal with as digital technology managers. So the answers to that kind of question will be found in those managing professional and even the strategic leader guides. The third place that you're going to find information about AI is in a specific publication and certification around AI governance. And this is where we focus very specifically on the issues and solutions around the use, acquisition, and management of AI. What are the risks involved and how do we manage those risks? What are the ethical concerns involved and how do we address those? How do we address issues of AI being used outside of IT governance controls? Those kind of issues are covered in that third publication. So we're taking AI very seriously. It is something that is changing the world. And as opposed to ITIL version 3, where cloud came along afterwards, and then ITIL 4 was like, well, what actually happened? How do we respond to that? In ITIL version 5, we're tracking this trend, this world-changing technology as it happens, as it changes the world. So you look forward to seeing many updates about AI and ITIL's involvement in AI as we go forward. Right. I think I'm going to stop there in the interest of time, and I'm going to hand back, Jude, to you and to Vivek.
Awesome. That was really, really insightful, David. Thank you so much for that. All your points really covered a lot. That's really great. So yeah, for all of you out there, especially for those who are wondering whether this is an investment, if it's worth your time, and what this certification actually signals in the market. I think, Vivek, if you can help them understand where they sit or where they stand in life, what does ITIL 5 mean for someone's professional standing? For example, what are employers and organizations globally looking out for? Or how are these certified professionals valued differently, for example? Yeah, over to you.
Thank you, Jude. Thank you very much. This is a very, very important question, and all of us, not just as individuals, but also as organizations, we need to keep asking ourselves the same question. Are we adding value to our organizations and to ourselves on a daily basis? That is what we need to keep answering all the time. Now, how I see this, David was talking about how we are looking at ITIL and also about AI. What is it that we are trying to do and how it is being looked at? AI is changing the world we are in. And every day there is something new, something innovative that is coming up. The professionals that would best succeed in this changing world are the professionals that can learn how to work with AI and use it to their advantage. This is very important. It is not just learning a couple of bits and pieces of AI here and there, but we need to learn how to use AI to our advantage. I'll take a very simple example. For a person, we can use AI to produce, or rather, to give insights and intelligence about their customer behavior. What is the customer doing? What are their patterns of buying, or what is the behavior? Things like this. If that happens, this individual will be able to succeed in the new world because he or she is able to take this knowledge and they are able to apply it within their organization, and the organization gets value. Now, ITIL talks exactly about all of these aspects. Our new ITIL is AI native by design. And what we will do, and what we are doing already, is to provide practical guidance to professionals and also to organizations around the world on using AI and taking advantage of AI in the best possible way. And this can be by enhancing on the way things are being worked on within the organization or by the individual. So ITIL will be a game changer for you to help, or rather, game changer for professionals to enhance their careers and also for organizations. Like you already know, we all know this on a regular basis. Almost all organizations say the same thing. I need AI. I need professionals that understand AI, and I am willing to hire them, recruit them, pay them. This is primarily the thing that is going on in the marketplace. Now, what ITIL brings in is to be able to continue with what you're doing, but use AI to better yourself as individuals. And this will help you get better pays, and you'll be able to use that. You'll also get faster promotions if you're able to add value to your organization. And this is what is to be looked at. Continue doing what you are doing in terms of how you can use ITIL and the AI native aspects of ITIL and AI overall to better your career. So this is significantly important for every professional. And I would argue that it is also important for every organization because organizations use individuals. I hope this helps.
Jaideep had, I think a more detailed question about his question around ITIL 4 and going to ITIL version 5. I know David had explained general differences on it, but I believe the specific question was around handling incidents, what has changed from ITIL 4 to ITIL version 5.
Yes.
And I'll take a stab, I'll say, at just saying that it's not that it's changed. I mean, incident is still an incident, right? However, the way we handle it and the way we need to look at it, we need to think about it differently. I mean, in the past, and with ITIL 4, we talk about it's restoring normal service as quickly as possible. And then how do we do that? You have your traditional tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, or swarming, right? We had talked about that in ITIL 4, even though swarming's been around. But we also had to understand that when you restore an incident, that there may be other teams involved, right? From just your developers to the transition. And so, how do we make that flow? Now, in ITIL version 5, not that it hasn't changed, it's also understanding that this, as David and as I mentioned, the product and service life cycles, because we have to understand how that integrates in. Um, and potentially, how is AI going to affect us when we restore that service in it for that incident? Depending on where your issues, I don't know if it sounds like there may be a specific issues that may come up, which may need to be answered off to the side on it. But I'm hoping that gave a little bit. I don't know if David wanted to add a bit more to that or not, that's okay. And maybe Jaddi, if you want to add a bit more, that's fine. Oh, and I did see that.
Oh, that's great.
So I want to add to what Pearl said, which is absolutely right. I want to just give a perspective. The practice guides are the most consistent part of ITIL. They are the things that are, if you like, almost timeless. So if we take incident management, for example, incident management has been around since ITIL version 1. It's changed. In ITIL version 1, it was part of the help desk module. And then in ITIL version 2, it was brought out separately. ITIL version 3, there were some changes made to the way in which incident and problem management interacted with each other. And when you use incident, when you use problem. In ITIL 4, that was reinforced even further. Now, because practice guides are more consistent, they're the building blocks of ITIL, if you like, they're updated on a slightly different time frame. Now, I say they're more consistent, but at the same time, they're the pieces that get impacted by change more quickly. So let's take incident management as an example. The biggest changes to incident management are really about not how incident management works. As Pearl mentioned, the basic way in which incident management works is very much as Pearl described it. That's not changed at all. But what has changed is the way in which AI enables us to do some of those activities. So we've updated the practice guide with that. We've updated the practice guide with what can be automated better. And I've mentioned already detection. I've mentioned about finding information about context that can be done. But the activities are still the same. It's just how we use AI to perform them. Now, I will also say that the practice guides have a release cycle or a refresh cycle of somewhere around 2 years. So every 2 years, the practice guides are reviewed and they're refreshed. What this means is not that the practices are completely changed. They're not. They continue to be consistent. Incident management continues to work the way that incident management has worked for several years. But the tools that are used, the techniques that can be used, Pearl mentioned swarming as an example. It's a very good example because in version 3, we didn't talk about swarming because that was seen as part of a different framework. Well, what we found is that people were using it a lot. So in ITIL 4, the whole concept of swarming was incorporated into incident management. That didn't change incident management and what it does. It changed a technique that can be used as part of incident management. So what you'll see in refreshes as they come out over a 2-year refresh cycle is updates to the techniques that are used, updates to the way in which practices may share information with each other because of the emergence of new tools. What I would say to you is if you have certification in ITIL 4, there is not yet an update to certification of practices. So your ITIL 4 certification, if you have a monitor, support, and fulfill, is still valid as part of your ITIL 4 ITIL version 5 practice manager certification. You do not need to retake that, right? If you are certified on that, my advice to you is to get hold of the practice guides through something like a PeopleCert Plus subscription and continue to monitor for those changes that are coming. There is a change to the practice guides that is due out in the second half of this year. So you'll see those updates coming through. It's not going to affect your certification. Don't worry about that. But it will give you a richer and more relevant guidance to how AI has changed the way in which these practices work.
So I know Jaideep was looking for some examples, some scenarios as it's related to the practices with AI. Um, I'll just add in my and two bits, David, and if you had something a little bit more to add was think AI and how we use it in our organizations are going to be different. Um, some organizations are more mature or not, but what I've seen is potentially an easy way. I mean, chat GPT going, how do we do how do we restore this? And they come up with a whole bunch. It is absolutely based on data, though. So, what data are you feeding it potentially within your organization to resolve that incident and potentially making you were saying the connection to like problem change, right? We all know problem hasn't changed either in the sense that we're still looking for the root cause. So, are there multiple incidences that are occurring that can connect us and that can AI help us get there potentially quicker instead of maybe some of the tools? David, I don't know if you wanted to add a bit to what Jadeep is asking.
I was speaking on mute. Sorry. Yeah, I think you've got that right. I don't think that incident management specifically has changed as incident management. But to give some real-time examples or real-life examples, I've mentioned before that we use AI, for example, to get context information. So incident management has always been about somebody reports an incident. One of the things you do is you have a look and see, is anybody else experiencing this incident? Or is this happening somewhere else? Or was there a change made recently? That activity is still the same. But with AI, you can actually go and find the answers to those questions a lot easier because an AI tool will be able to use the incident records. It'll be able to analyze incident records at the same time as it's analyzing event reports. It'll be able to correlate that and it'll be able to give you an informed answer about, is this happening elsewhere in the organization? Is this just one user? Is it 50 users? So there's a good example of how incident management is changing, but it's not doing anything different. It's still doing the same things. It's just using a technology to do it more effectively. Another example is knowledge articles. One of the big challenges that we have is getting people to write knowledge articles after incidents have been resolved, because the engineers who are supposed to be doing this say, I've got many other things to be worried about, and incident management is not my problem. Well, we can start using AI to detect frequently occurring incidents that have been solved, analyze what was done to resolve them, find out who was involved, and start drafting frameworks for knowledge articles that then can be validated by the engineers instead of them having to start from scratch. So there's just two examples of the way in which incident management is being changed. But there are many more. But as I say again, when the way that incident management works, though, the things that incident management does have not changed. They're consistent.
I know Jadeep has that difference between the value chain and whatnot, and I think that's a little bit beyond this webinar. Be happy to take it offline if needed. Um, it there has been a change in the sense of it hasn't been. It's not that the concept has changed, but the way we look at it has changed. So, and that is actually part of the class to look at how that value chain happens. And if you are, it sounds like you're already ITIL 4 certified, that through the bridge course, you could absolutely get that difference. But I can certainly give you an overview offline, I think, just in the interest of time here, for Jude and the webinar here.
No worries. All right. If there's nothing else, then I would like to, thank you, all of you, Pearl, David, Vivek, for all this insightful conversation that we've had. And, it's exactly how we expected it, to be really engaging and insightful and covering all the essentials that you need to know about the two different versions, ITIL 4 and ITIL 5. So yeah, moving into the final leg of our webinar, uh, Pearl, I'm addressing this to you. During our earlier conversations, you had mentioned that you had, when you had started going through the version 5 material properly, the direction of the course began to make much more sense because earlier you had mentioned that you had not gone into it in detail. And so when you had, it a lot of points made sense to you, and I'm sure everyone around here would love to hear a little about those points. For example, like what immediately stood out to you in the course, or what learning did you overall arrive at, or what should these professionals think about the transition from 4 to 5? Over to you.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, thanks, Jude. Yeah, seeing the evolution, and I will admit, I was skeptical from ITIL 4 to ITIL version 5. Uh, why, what's this, what does this bring, right? Because ITIL's been around for decades. It's really survived a lot of the disruptions that have happened throughout. But what I finding with ITIL version 5 as I go through it further, uh, it- the idea of products and services, customer experience, this is here now, right? And and this is what's important that we need to really think about as we move forward, as we want to continue to deliver that value. And so with ITIL version 5, having that connection to both the product and service management, adding digital, right? And really keeping up with the way the world exists today. You know, it is AI where PeopleCert knows that this is the way we need to go. So it is adding that in, as David said, through the practices throughout that, keeping that in mind. And it is practical by nature. The transformation that, for people who are wanting to keep up through that there's that layer to show that people who have taken that and gotten the designations are able to go out and apply that. So I hope that helps maybe answer this a little bit.
Yeah, that I think pretty much covers it all, Pearl. All right, super. So yeah, I think no more questions, no more questions. All right. So thank you guys. Thank you, Vivek. Thank you, Pearl. Thank you, David. Hey, thank you guys. Last closing statement I want to leave everyone with. Guys, ITIL 5 really feels like a framework that's responding to, how your modern IT teams actually operate. So the real question isn't whether ITIL matters. The question is whether you want to be ahead of this shift. Thank you again for spending time with us today, and take care, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.